So is my mic on? Yeah, good. I don't like podiums. I'm also a geriatric psychiatrist. And I'm actually very proud to say, as of last year, I'm a geriatric psychiatrist. So this is actually a challenge for me to talk to you about facilitation in a large group. You know, I feel like I have to do some things to demonstrate what it would look like in a large group, which I'm going to try to do. But the topic is around more small group, and I know I heard from your organizers, people want to know about facilitating interprofessional teams, interprofessional collaboration, how to manage conflict. I heard that too, so I hope that we'll go over that as well. But I still find it a challenge to do this in a large group, right? Because I'm not giving you, I feel guilty, I'm not giving you any opportunity to practice and get feedback. Because that's really, if you want to be a better facilitator, you have to be thinking about how you could set that up at your hospital so that someone could watch you, give you feedback, come up with a change plan, and then make changes to do it a little better. Or whether even more so, that you can build that into your everyday teamwork. How did we do? What was the process of facilitation that actually occurred here? What wasn't right? What could we do better? How can we help the next leader? Many of us rotate our leaders now on teams, right? To run chart rounds or team. So we want processes to actually change behavior. So I'm feeling guilty, but I'll do my best, because I'll put some ideas out for you to contemplate, all right? I have a trigger videotape. I borrowed heavily from the work that I do with a course called EPIC, which is at the Center for Interprofessional Education. It's a week-long course on interprofessional collaboration and education. How many people in this room have taken that course? So there's a few. So I've borrowed heavily from some of the slides that I use, because I talk about and teach about facilitation in that course. But at that course, we give people a chance to break out into small groups to practice what we're preaching, right? Can't do that today. I can just give you some ideas to think about and take back, all right? So these are the learning objectives. So you know what I'm going to do is kind of say what I'm doing as well as do it. So notice I'm not reading the slide. It's a small thing, but we fall into that habitude of just reading the slides. And why are we showing slides? We're doing it so you can read them and maybe not have to pay attention to what I'm saying. Because how can you do that at the same time, at least all the time? That's a facilitation technique about not reading all your slides. So there'll be little pointers like that. Did you know if you push B, the slide goes out? How many people knew that? Not too many. That may be the biggest thing you remember from today. Right? And if you push it again, it comes back. Or if you don't like black, do white. Push the W. And then people can pay attention to you. They can look at you, right? So they don't have to read and listen at the same time. And you know what? There's cognitive science to show that we don't do that very well. We do it. It's like how we were taught, but we don't do it very well because learning doesn't take place in the same way. I'm going to be breaking my own rule all the way through this, by the way, because everything is a balance, right? And it's not a black and white area. So what is facilitation? So this was a word cloud that was created by a group. Take a look at the words. Not big surprise. Enlightenment, trust, listening, energy, reflection, solution. Mindset. One of the myths about facilitation is that the person doing it isn't necessarily uses their content expertise as a part of facilitation. Facilitation is just a process, but it has to be goal-directed. It has a beginning, middle, and end. You're facilitating something to take a group or a team to an end point. And so as a facilitator, if you're a content expert, even better. Then on top of everything the group comes up with, you can add things or participate in the discussion, move in and out of your role as the group leader. It's not all about process. So what is this slide saying to you? You get a prize, at least I'll clap for you if you... What is this slide saying? Someone knows it. Do not be shy. Yell it out. What is this slide saying? Sorry? Leaves. Okay. This is a puzzle. Sage on the stage, guide on the side. Okay? So traditionally in a large group, people get up and just say everything that they know, right? And often we speak too often and too long because we believe we have the speaker's delusion. Speaker's delusion is that every word that comes out of your mouth is God's gift to mankind, right? Sage on the stage. Guide on the side is much more the facilitator's role. So I'm as interested in what you know as what I'm going to tell you. That's the philosophy of a facilitator. Enabling who's in the room to actually have their voice as well. So guide, that's a Sherpa guide. So facilitation, by definition, you can read this. I love this because it takes the pressure off you to be a sage. Not that you shouldn't be a sage and a facilitator. You actually have to know what you're talking about. You have to be a content expert, I think. Not always. I've seen some very good facilitators who are good at facilitating any kind of conversation. They just pick it up quickly. But if you're the content expert, and you are in your field, in various aspects of geriatrics, but it is really a way of having a conversation with others that you're trying to enable the group to do the work and the individuals in the work to move ahead. So what are your current challenges? So first of all, how many of you facilitate a team or small group discussions at least once a week? Hands way up. Okay, so that's more than half the group. All right. So we have roving mics. Okay? Because I want to know what your challenges are. So where are the mics? One here and one over here. So for 1 minute and 1 minute only, I want you to turn to your neighbor and talk to them about your challenge with facilitation. What's your biggest challenge? 1 minute. Okay, folks. So I've just used a large group facilitation technique called Think, Pair, Share. I could have given you a little longer to actually write down what you wanted to say to your neighbor. That's even better, because we don't write enough in medicine. We don't write enough in healthcare. We are an oral profession. Everything that we know comes out of our mouths, and the quicker the better in terms of in care settings. When you have the opportunity to write down what you're thinking before you share it, it's even more effective. So in a popcorn kind of way, I want to hear as many different responses as we can do in the next 90 seconds. So who would like to start? Maybe if you yell it, I might hear it, but the mic is even better. Sorry? Commitment. Okay, wait a sec. I have to type. Okay.
Side conversation. Dominant personality.
All the good stuff's coming out.
Baggage. People bring baggage.
Sorry?
People bring baggage.
Baggage.
Distractions from technology.
Bless you. Demonstrating action.
Sorry?
Demonstrating action.
Demonstrating action. What do you mean?
So demonstrating that people not only are being heard, but that action is being taken based on what they've provided.
Okay. So interesting, the only one that wasn't mic'd was the one I couldn't hear. Go ahead.
Everybody having a voice.
Competing priorities.
A second. Oh. What was the next one?
Competing priorities.
Yeah. Yes?
Safe space.
Sorry?
A safe space.
Safe space. Maybe providing a safe space.
People have opinions, they don't want to ask their group is over. Enough time.
Whoa! Okay, I'm going to stop. This is for more than one reason. What was the last one? Having time. Mm-hmm. Okay, those are really good ones. Now, I could have told you this, couldn't I? I could have just said, well, here are the 9 things that people are challenged by. Or maybe even worse, the last group was challenged by this. Someone told me. So I have confidence that the knowledge that you have, as a facilitator up here, is greater than mine, far greater than mine. Look at the numbers of people here and your experience at doing facilitation. If there's only some way I could get your knowledge on the table that others could learn from it. Then there's the competing expectation that you think I'm an expert and people really only want to hear from me and they don't really want to hear from the neighbor, because why would they come to talk to their neighbor? They would want to come to hear the speaker. And there's always that dramatic tension when you are doing facilitation in a large group. And to meet needs of both areas, I think you need a balanced kind of approach. So had I just gone to you and asked for your opinion and put up hands, I think that would have taken much longer. We probably wouldn't have gotten half the points. But because I gave you a time to talk to each other, to facilitate conversations, respecting the knowledge that you have, and this could have gone even longer and deeper. We could have taken this and then gone into trying to explain and maybe even use this to riff off problem solving and gone off into role play. a way of getting a lot of things. Well, maybe we'll have time to come back to this slide to address it. So these are some of the things that have been described, and I could have asked you this question: what does a good facilitator do well? But in a lecture format, you only have so much time, and you have to very deliberately decide which things are going to go to the group and which are going to be told, and then to kind of balance that, too, to be thinking about it that way. So take a look at these. And now that you're all warmed up and that you have loud voices, we may not need the mics, because I'm actually very impressed with how people's ability to shout. What's missing from this list? Give me 3 more. Have a planned agenda, yes.
Someone who's knowledgeable about the topic.
Content expert. Right. Having a vision as to what should happen, what the outcomes. So having someone know where they're going. Be a content expert, right? Have goals, right? Because facilitation without that is remarkably actually inept. It's just process then of facilitating conversations. But conversations in healthcare have to go somewhere. We only have so much time. These are others. It's good to have a sense of humor, yeah? And to feel comfortable enough in healthcare to be able to use it. To take what you normally do in your regular life and use your dry, subtle, not so subtle sense of humor in the way of engaging others. People will love you for that if you're comfortable in your own skin. Have to be a very good observer, positive, having a positive attitude. So looking at conflict, seeing the good of conflict, that it's necessary actually to have disagreements. Job as a facilitator is to kind of sort it out and help people come to some agreement and reach their goal. And to have a positive attitude when you see arguments. Some people find that delicious. You know? Like this, I can't wait for people to start arguing, because then I know the group's going to move somewhere. You want to say something, let's mic you.
I'm just wondering, along that line, when you have people who, I'll say the hecklers, managing the hecklers, who aren't making comments to add to the discussion, but are trying to bring the discussion down or derail it, and you need to have an ability to manage that.
Yeah.
So whether it be through humor or some other way, getting people back on track.
Yeah. In a large group, in a small group, either?
I'm thinking more in a small group.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think one has to be respectful that people have an opinion, and as a facilitator, I would be trying to redirect my attention elsewhere by acknowledging the person's right to speak. Sometimes I will deal with something that's incessant or maybe a little bit more malignant in terms of how disruptive it is. I may do that after the group. I may choose to meet with them afterwards. Another strategy is to give that person something to do, give them a task. You know, there's something they're being belligerent around, turn it into something they can do for the group, that they uniquely can do for the group, potentially, and figuring that out, finding a role for the antagonist, for the person who's trying to disrupt. Because they're doing it often because they're passionate about it. Believe it or not, I think many people aren't just doing it, some people are, because they want to disrupt, but most of the time I found that they do want to participate. They may have trouble getting along with people, and the job of facilitators is to find the good in it and get them acknowledge their point of view, make sure that others have time to be heard, but give them something to do for the group, and figuring out what that is. It's a little bit of a different lens to think about. I think this is a job of a facilitator. It's not the only thing a facilitator does, but I do liken it to conducting. In fact, at one point, Well, 5 years ago in my career, I actually had a baton. I don't know where it is now, but it is an interesting, humorful way to actually conduct a large group talk in terms of getting people to participate. It can be just as effective as breaking the audience into small groups or having a think, pair, share by inviting people, a corner of the audience with a baton, to ask questions. It's your turn. And I just do this and people say, what is he doing? But the music, and then sometimes I've had music playing at the same time I'm doing that. It gives permission, it's humorful, it's kind of a fun way. It's based on my personality, you know, in terms of my own interest in music. Never conducted, but I used to teach folk dancing. And you sort of always had that in you, and you kind of just use it in an imaginative way to actually encourage participation. But it is a little bit what a good conductor does, a good facilitator. They're not playing all the music, they're allowing others to be at their best. You allow others to be at your best. It embraces all of these features. Embracing conflict. I've always said, run towards the argument. Oh my God, what does he say? Run towards the argument. Don't run away from it. It's our first reaction is to do just that, but run toward it, get others to help you, understand what a conflict is about, and use the group to brainstorm and to solve a problem, to sort out the differences that people have. My colleague Yvonne Steinert, who's a medical educator at McGill, studied small group facilitation by actually asking medical students what made a good small group facilitator, and actually did ethnographic research, sat in on small groups, and this is what she came up with. Kind of overlaps a little bit with what I've already talked about. It's quite goal-directed. You know, outlining the group objectives, summarizing what you're doing at the end. And just think of taking these kinds of rules and applying it to your next team meeting. You know, how many of you actually have objectives for your ordinary chart rounds of what exactly we're going to do today and how many charts we have to go through, checking in how you're doing, why you're doing it in the group, summarizing at the end, looking at the actionable items that will take it forward. Having 4 minutes for debriefing. How do we do as a group? What do we do that we want to continue? What do we do that we want to stop? What didn't we do that we want to start? The stop, start, continue. Debriefing at the end of a small group is a very lovely check and balance, and I'm using now for all my committee meetings. I had one yesterday with 18 people on our academic council, which I co-chair at my hospital. And every meeting is debriefed in that way. And new ideas come up. Well, we didn't do enough of this, or we did too much of that. And everybody likes a committee meeting to have actionable items. So this is true too. So if you're starting a new group, there are going to be things that happen at the beginning, middle, and end of the life of that group. A lot of you know about Tuckman's stages of group development: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. I think you're supposed to pronounce the last one adjoining to make it rhyme. But this is developmental, this is naturalistic. This is what happens when you meet a group for the first time. There's the honeymoon, the forming. Everyone seems that they get along. And then people realize they have different opinions about things, the storming phase. Then there's a phase where you kind of work out those differences, you understand them, you know each other's roles a little more, and then you get into the really good part, the performing, and you hope that lasts a long time. And some of our groups, you know, some of us have been with the same group for many, many years. And then groups end too. Either you move on, or the group moves on, or the purpose of the group changes, right? And so these are some of the phenomena that happen in the groups. Groups may be tentative and hesitant, might require different behavior on your part. The storming, where opinions of differences of opinion are expressed. The norming, starting to work together. So if things aren't going so well, at your third or fourth meeting, because everyone seems to be arguing and, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Why did I agree to be the leader? That's normal. Normal. Okay? It's been described. You're not the first person to experience it, but you need to expect it. This has been very helpful, learning about Tuckman's stages of group development, that, think about our own relationships with people. Didn't we go through this kind of stage with our partners? Don't we still go through these? Don't we always wish we're in the performing? But the reality of it in groups is that people move back and forth, don't they? New issues come up, you go into a storming phase, you kind of normalize, start performing again, depending on how conflict is happening. And that's true probably with all relationships. So this is just a summary. I'm just going to point out this slide for you to look at later. Marilyn Lakin is an OISE professor who described the relationship of what a group facilitator would need to do differently at each stage of a group. And these are some of the things. I'll go through this quite quickly. But starting a group, really establishing, one of the most important things in forming is establishing group norms. So, when you meet a group, how are we going to work as a group? What are the rules of engagement that we're going to embark on? And you make a list of that, and it becomes the credo for your group. It could be any group, and I mean your chart rounds group. That something you don't think is so formal, but it's very important. Put it on the wall. This is our code of behavior. Even around conflict management, put it on the wall. Like that we're going to have that, and when we do, we're going to figure out how to deal with it. Group norms and establishing how you're going to work, like things like you're not going to interrupt each other, you're going to promise to be on time. You can check in with that as a part of a debrief. Checking in on how you're doing as a group. You want to create a safe space. And the great thing about geriatric groups, and I still do a day and a half of geriatric psychiatry, mostly a hospital administrator now, but I have a wonderful interprofessional team at CAMH in the PACE clinic. It's like a bountiful of riches. And we do chart rounds about every 2 weeks of my outpatients, and it's just it's the best. I was at Sunnybrook for 30 years. It was a lovely place to work. Geriatrics was fantastic there, but not so much with teams. Great community teams, fantastic, but not so much in the outpatient department. CAMH, I've been really, really lucky. So I've actually gone through some of this with my group. The storming, I'm going to have a special little section at the end about conflict management. So by the time you get to norming and performing, you're basically stepping back and allowing the group to do their work. Not so much need for you to facilitate the discussion, just to keep it online and moving forward. So there are different types of groups. And maybe before I do this, maybe we'll show the DVD. Before we do, I'll just cue it up. This is a DVD of a group that's just formed. It's actually an IPE group. How many are teaching students about interprofessional education through the RGP? How many are involved with that? A few, okay. But I think it doesn't matter, in fact, who is in the group. This video spends 2 minutes looking at the beginning of a new group where there is a facilitator and there are people in the room from different health disciplines. They happen to be senior students. I'm not sure it really matters, but they are looking at norms. How to start the group, how the facilitator actually gets that going. I want you to look at what this facilitator is doing and make mental or written notes about what you see, okay? Do we need the lights off or, nope, okay.
Thank you for introducing yourselves. Now we need to discuss how we're going to organize ourselves so that we can function effectively as a group. And there's a few ways we can do this, but I know we're short on time. So we need to assign a timekeeper, a
No.
reporter, and a treat bringer, and then we need to discuss our group norms. Well, I'll be the leader.
Does the emperor have any clothes? Like, what do I do now? Don't you love watching me? What's he going to do now? The video doesn't work. I could dance. I did do folk dancing. I don't think you want to see it now, though. If we can't get it going, that's not the end of the world. Doesn't seem to, it worked before, eh? Yeah. Okay. Does it have a DVD player? Yep, it does. No? Do you want to try it up here? Okay. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, okay. So it's put your hands up here.
I'm going to pull it up.
Okay. 1 second, we'll be there. Okay. Should I punch it in? No sound.
Function effectively as a group. And there's a few ways we can do this, but I know we're short on time. So we need to assign a timekeeper, a recorder, and a treat bringer, and then we need to discuss our group norms. Well, I'll be the leader. There. And who would like to be the timekeeper? Claire?
Oh.
And the recorder? Heather? And treat bringer? Annabelle? Okay. All right, does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. So, now we're going to go on to the group norms. Now, the last group that I was with, we all agreed to treat each other with respect. Only one person talks at a time. All be on time, obviously, and ask questions at any time. So just put up your hands if you agree with those. Okay, great. Well, now that that's done, we can discuss this week's case. Mrs. Singh. What's up? Why are you guys so quiet?
Well, we thought that you'd tell us who should start.
No, this is a self-directed group. So you as group members are supposed to take the lead.
So this is a simulation. Again, if you are interested in purchasing these tapes, the Center for IPE has it available on their website, and they're really excellent trigger tapes around interprofessional facilitation. They walk through really all of the areas that you'd want to look at around IPC. So what did you notice here? If you can shout out what you noticed was going on, or maybe a problem about what you were noticing. Maybe you mic it?
The facilitator did not really try to engage others.
Okay. Okay. Over here, you're going to get your exercise. Go ahead.
He didn't use the 20-second rule to let people respond to any kind of questions that he had.
Okay. Do you know about that rule? About waiting? 20 seconds is a pretty long time. I might have said 10 or 15, but the idea is if you're asking a question, wait for an answer in facilitation because people have to think. And there is a group pressure that occurs. If I waited long enough, someone would put their hand up because please, someone, right? We all feel that way. It's normal, again, but it happens. It's just let it happen. Let the group deal with the pressure of answering and of contributing. That way you get a conversation started. You have to bite your lip, okay? A few more. Bossy, yeah. Right. Yeah. Kiss of death. Right. No matter how much work the first group did, and in your experience as a facilitator, that's when a facilitator gets lazy, right? When you're bringing what happened in another group to the group that you're dealing with now, because in fact everything is fresh, everything is new. You have to start with the group that's right in front of you. I imagine, there's a lot of laughter going on. You picked it up very, very quickly. It made me cringe a little bit, but how many people have seen facilitation like this? Okay, then half the people put their hands up, right? So it's very easy to do this, and actually it's very easy to do this even when you're experienced, because it's quicker, right? And actually group process in establishing norms of how you're going to work, even for something like if you're starting a new rounds or new chart rounds where you want participation, it's worth every second to establish the norms and to post them on how you're going to interact and the quality of that. Okay, I want to get out of this now. Okay, and then I want to... Okay, so we know that, this is well established, the difference between multi-professional and interprofessional collaboration. I want to introduce a new word into the definition that's actually not a part of anyone's definition that I've seen. But you know when a group is working really well, when it's not only working from, when you're learning from, with, and about, but how about for each other? That you're learning for someone when you're a part of an interprofessional collaborative group that you're facilitating. I think that's been a missing word, and it's so important. You know what? It's a higher level. That means you're going outside the group and you're taking responsibility at a higher level when that group's performing often, and you're bringing things back to the group because you want them to know it. It's very important for all of you to succeed, for all of you to be able to move forward. So I actually wrote the WHO about the definition, and they're actually considering it. A colleague of mine suggested that word, and when he did, I said, oh my God, why didn't anyone think of this before? Because it's actually at a higher level around how we work in groups. We actually work for other people in the group. And so the difference between multi-professional, which is like parallel process, we have people from different disciplines in a group, in the same room, but interprofessional is where you're actually working with, from, and about, and learning for other folks in terms of the goal of improving care. And so IP facilitation is a little different, and the important point here is you have to walk the walk. And that's really at every level, from the leaders all the way down to the frontline people. So when we were working on the EPIC course that we were doing to introduce interprofessional collaboration and help enable people to do that more effectively, I joined an interprofessional curriculum planning committee, and for about 3 months we were going nowhere because we actually didn't know how to work together as an interprofessional curriculum planning group, which is very different than doing it just with medicine or just with nursing or just with OT. We were actually planning a learning curriculum. You know what we needed? I got Molin Lesh, who is an expert in group therapy, to come in and watch us. And he said, you know what you should do? You should just pair up, doesn't matter what discipline it is, you two take Monday, you take Tuesday, you take Wednesday. He interprofessionalized us. He gave us permission to just do the work. And for that kind of aspect, it wasn't so important that everything and absolutely be planned as a group. He got very practical. And this was the dynamic, the group analyst saying this. He gave us permission to go back to first principles. So, and I think from that, because it went so well, like that solution went so well, and the course now is in its 11th or 12th year, we often get comments about just them watching us interact, which assumes a certain natural kind of state that's very, very helpful. So all of the rules that we talked about, group facilitation, really apply in spades to interprofessional collaborative facilitation. There really isn't that much difference, except the introductions, the ground rules, the expectations, role modeling, what you want, building confidence. But there's the issue of jargon, isn't there? Oh my God, did that become evident to us. At the first time we ran that course, we ran into a storming Tuesday. So Monday was, introducing everybody. Tuesday we were storming because doctors particularly were saying things about nurses and the way they talked that were derogatory. And that stopped the whole course, and we met for 3 hours to debrief that and to sort out what it was that was causing that conflict, what had happened. And we had the group problem solve it. And thank goodness Molin Lesh was leading that Tuesday group, which was on interprofessional dynamics. And he thought, that's where I really learned the importance of, running towards the conflict and not away. But jargon is an important issue, and the icebreakers that you do with an interprofessional group can be very helpful at sorting out roles and role differences. In the IPE world, we have medical students shadowing social workers, we have social work students shadowing psychiatrists, we have pharmacists shadowing social workers. The shadowing aspect is really a way of getting to know each other and each other's worlds and languages. I want to introduce a scale. Have you seen Joan Sargeant's interprofessional facilitation scale? How many people are familiar with that? Okay, it's published and it's in your package. Do you want to pull it out? Take a look at this for a minute. I'd suggest actually at some point in this conference that you fill it out for yourselves. This is something you can take back with you. It's a very good tool for assessing yourself and your facilitation skills, but also for an observer of your facilitation skills. It could be something that the group fills out about you as a facilitator. And then you fill it out, and then you have this interesting conversation of compare and contrast with what you think you're doing and how it's coming across. So this is actually a learning scale, not just an assessment scale of your ability to facilitate. Take a look at the criteria. Pinpoint one thing from this scale, when you look at it now, that you don't think you're doing very well, maybe in the fair to poor category. Circle it now. Just one. And reflect on, when you circle it, what is it that you could do when you get back home, either by yourself or with the people you work every day, to help improve that skill? Would it be feedback? Would it be discussing this? I know that you've come in teams here to this meeting. Would it be discussing your circled facilitation skill with the people that you've brought, the people that you work with? Or is it with the team that you work with every day? How can you improve what you've circled? And it's a very good sort of grounding, objective scale that's validated now for interprofessional teams to help raise your awareness of the issues involved with interprofessional facilitation. I'm just going to skip over this. And I want to end with a little bit of discussion on conflict. So I've recommended this. Does that seem familiar? Is this you? On a busy day? See if you can identify with these pictures. Do you know someone close to you? That was alluded to in the Think, Pair, Share. Someone who just takes over and dominates the conversation. Right? It can get... Fortunately, in my career, I've not seen too many instances, maybe once or twice, where I saw this overtly in a group. I've been fortunate. All of this is de rigueur in small groups, either interprofessional or otherwise. And who identifies with that feeling at the end of a busy day? You know, I started my career at Sunnybrook doing medical psychiatry. So I consulted to the geriatric medicine units at Sunnybrook, the Veterans Wing. And this was before geriatrics really subsumed that place and took it over in terms of improving the level of medical care there. And I remember going over to consult. I spent almost as much time with the staff as I did with the patients. And this picture kind of resonates with me because it was very difficult work at a very difficult time. People were trying to do their best. But conflict can do this. It actually, you can take it home, right? If you run away from it. So I think one of the big things when it happens in a group is to have the mind of staying in control and taking a positivist view as what is this person, doing in the group. If it's not too malicious, what are they really trying to do? We talked just a little while ago about turning someone who's maybe trying to stonewall or take over the group to try to figure out what it is they're trying to do. What's the good in what they're trying to do? How can you take the energy that's behind their wish to dominate and to turn it into something that the group can use? Finding something that acknowledges their contribution, but at the same time, other people have to be heard. And as a facilitator, your role is to keep the group going and to look at the whole and not just the parts. I think being respectful and not losing your cool, easy to say, hard to do. Going to the source, I will often, when it's malicious, and it doesn't occur that often, I will take a person aside. Sometimes it relates to performance of that person, their own competence, and the group is very upset that someone is not pulling their weight. And so sometimes it isn't just the group facilitator's job, it's the team leader or the manager's job to do a performance review of someone who really isn't doing the work. And all the group feedback isn't going to do anything unless the person is approached and given the feedback they need to improve their performance. Go into the problem-solving mode and using brainstorming, going back to the norms that the group established. I talked about reframing what a person is doing to look at normalizing conflict as a part of a group. Directly confronting the conflict and moving towards it rather than away. Listening. And again, I'll go back to writing. So when you're trying to work out solutions as to helping a group move along, instead of doing everything orally, have people write out their solutions too. It kind of distances a little bit and also allows people to reflect more on what they think is going on and what could be done about it. And have the group brainstorm the solutions. That we have a conflict, we have a disagreement. How are we going to get past that to reach the goal that we all are in agreement that we have to? And having the group as a facilitator solve it rather than you as the facilitator come up with all the solutions. Easy to say, hard to do. And I wish I had an opportunity to watch you and provide feedback. You can provide feedback to each other. The facilitator's guide can be very helpful. I had 16 suggestions around good facilitation. I'm not going to read them. I'm going to leave them with you for you to read. They do summarize what we did talk about today. And I like ending with your commitment to change. So this is something I'm doing more of. This is an evidence-based method of learning. The commitment to change is actually some of the best research in this area has come out of the occupational therapy department at U of T. Looking at if you actually commit to something that you want to change about what you're doing, there's a very good chance it'll actually happen. And here's a form. Take this form home with you because there's a lot of things you could do this with your teaching and education. But it's based on behavior and looking at your own behavior and actually going over it with someone that you're working with, if you're giving feedback to a colleague, if you're the manager, how the change would actually occur and to discuss the resources needed, what would get in the way, how you know the results have been achieved. We're using this now as part of a new feedback model for students. You know how when feedback's given, often it's just left, a bunch of suggestions around what you should be doing differently? This actually actualizes it, writes a prescription for change, a commitment, and then the student brings it back and you see how they're doing. So maybe you could start with the one thing you circled in the facilitation guide, the one thing you think you have to work on. When you think about that from a change perspective, a commitment to change, what are the things you're going to need to have in place to actually do that? What resources? Who else needs to help you? Who in this room could help you from your team? What's going to get in the way? And how will you know that you're successful? I'm done.
Were there any questions for Dr. Silver? Oh, wait, 10, 20 seconds.
Mike's coming, yeah.
Thank you very much for the talk. I have a question. Oh, thank you. When you have a disruptive individual, how do you know whether that particular individual is not making a valid point, or whether he's being valid, or whether he's just being disruptive? And if he is being disruptive, who reins him in? Particularly if you're in a team that you have to work together the next day,
Yeah.
and you don't have someone, you know, it's not someone that's from the outside.
Yeah. So, I mean, I look at disruption as a positivist, from a positivist point of view. I try to understand the points the person that the point is making, the points that the person is making. Sorry. I acknowledge that the point has been made. If the person insists on continuing to make the same point or isn't getting from you what they're expecting, I think you have to park it. And I think you can be helped if that becomes part of your norms that you established at the beginning. When people have differences of opinion, we're going to stay with it for a certain point, but we're going to have to park things and to be talked about afterwards in the interest of group getting the work done. So going back to the group norms as a facilitator is one way out. I'll take someone like that aside if it doesn't go away at the end of a group and speak to them one-to-one and to give them feedback on how they're coming across and get them to reflect on the impact that may be having, and acknowledging at the same time that I think, believe it or not, I think that their intent is ultimately good. It's just that their approach is not getting them to where they want to go. So I will, during a small group or a team, I will acknowledge the person has spoken and made their point, and I will be looking for inclusion of the silent people and people who also have points to make by saying we need to move on to another person's opinion. And at the same time, actually rephrasing or reframing what the disruptive person has actually said. Often that's not enough. They'll disrupt on another point. You have to come back and do the same thing. You go back to the group norms. I'm not saying this is easy, but it has to be consistent. And I think debriefing it, so at the end of building that into every group is a way of constantly having the group look at itself and how it's doing as a group. And that behavior, people's opinion of it, or your ability to facilitate moving it through will get acknowledged as well, which will be very positive for the facilitator. And will be norm setting for the person who was disruptive, who may not actually realize the impact that they're having on the group. Maybe one more question, because I know you're time constrained. Here?
What's your opinion on when things get heated in group discussions and tactics don't succeed in trying to calm things down, taking a break, actually taking a 10-minute break? Have you had experience with that? And
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's certainly a strategy that you can do, but I'd like to know your experience on that.
Yeah, I've seen that done. Again, during the break, I might then do some problem solving with or without including the person who's been the disruptor around what to do next. Because when you come back from the group, everyone's going to be going like, you know, like what's going to happen next. So it's a pause, and I think that's a very good suggestion. I think when you're not sure where to move, it's like a timeout, right? When we're role-playing these things, when we do give feedback in small groups, we give people permission, you know, to take a time out because in the heat of it, you don't know what to do, and it's kind of frustrating, and then the group can often help you. So you could either do that literally with 10 minutes, or if you park 5 minutes during the presentation, have the presented as a problem to the large group, and request suggestions around, you know, where we go next. with moving the conversation forward if you're really stuck. I have confidence in people who gather at any event that the sum total knowledge is greater than mine. And most people have very good intent and they will help you if you ask. It's the asking for help that's hard for some of us to do. But a good facilitator does that all the time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry. What if you're part of a group and the facilitator is maybe chosen from an outsider, and the perception of the team is that the facilitator is not doing a good job?
Yeah.
So as a team member, what do you do?
Huh. Okay. Well, I think that's a problem. I think a good facilitator coming into a group like this one, I did ask quite a bit about you before I arrived. Fortunately, I'm in the field. I'm not in the medicine field, I'm in the psychiatry field, but I have some understanding of the RGP. I used to sit on the board, but it's you have to know the group that you're coming into. It's actually disrespectful to just come flying in to do some facilitation in a group that you don't understand. I think if that's happening, it's not going well, it's your responsibility as a participant to give that facilitator feedback before it goes too far. And a good facilitator will listen and make the moves they need to change. I love I love watching facilitators fly in the seat of their pants. Good ones can be flexible and can move where you tell them. And that's a special talent. Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.